It's low-hanging fruit time! Take it away, Anita.
From True Lies to American Sniper, from 24 to Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Western media is full of images of evil brown people who need to be wiped from the earth by noble, righteous white men heroically fighting for freedom and justice.
Damn those fictional heroic white American heroes!
And sure, it's so commonplace by this point that maybe you don't even bat an eye at old-fashioned American Islamophobia in our media.
Okay, the main bad guys on Raiders of the Lost Ark are Nazis. White Nazis, not Muslims, not brown people, not Arabs. So using this one clip to further her bullshit narrative is classic Sarkesian. Again, main bad guy in Iron Man is a rich white dude. The Middle Eastern terrorists are merely pawns. Oh, for fuck's sake, you can hardly have a movie about a war in Iraq or Afghanistan without casting Middle Eastern people for the roles of the people you're at war with! So they're even going far back as the mid-80s, at which point a lot of hijackings were done by Libyans in real life. Now she's clutching at straws. Rules of Engagement is about how an American soldier, I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments of his actual rank, is put on trial for killing civilians. But all she's using this scene for is to show those brown people as evil bullet fodder. The Sheik in Cannonball Run is hardly a villain. Sure, he's no hero, but without him there'd be no Cannonball Run. Wow, even Back to the Future? Again, Libyans. It made perfect sense at the time. Any country who's at war with America, be it a hot war or a cold war, or even some fragile peace treaty, these nationalities always make for ideal bad guys of the era.
What? Back to the Future? Even that beloved comedy classic takes a moment to toss in a few scary brown men to menace and terrorize our white heroes. Unfortunately, we can't hop in Doc Brown's DeLorean and undo all the harmful representations of Muslims, Arabs, and Middle Easterners that have haunted our stories since, well, basically since the Crusades.
Yeah, Hollywood has been making movies about scary Muslims since the Crusades. Remember that American classic that was made in the 17th century about the brown-skinned terrorists? Yeah, me neither.
But we can try to make sure history doesn't keep repeating itself.
Okay then, Miss Sarkesian, please, enlighten us on how we can stop history repeating itself. Oh, so you're not going to give any solutions, you're just going to go on to the next part. Well, that sucks. I was hoping, against hope, that something intelligent was going to come out of your mouth for once. I guess the closest to anything like that ever happening is when you spit out your boyfriend's cum. Just kidding! No intelligent male would ever let you near his dick.
In some ways, things have changed. Once upon a time, non-white actors could hardly get any work in Hollywood at all. These days, shows like Homeland and movies like Executive Decision are providing some brown actors with ample opportunity to portray scary terrorists who get gunned down while screaming something absurd like "Death to America."
Or... yeah, that. So basically you're saying that if you're a certain skin colour, you're not allowed to play a villain. How retarded can you get?
Now sure, not every Middle Eastern character in films is a villain. In the 1921 box office smash The Sheik, the dashing hero gets the girl in the end.
Really? 1921? We're going that far back?
But the Arab world of the film is presented as exotic and dangerous, and the Sheik himself, the one good heroic Arab, is played by Italian-American heartthrob Rudolph Valentino. You see, since he's not really Arab, he's allowed to get the girl in the end.
Your complaint about a white man playing an Arab is just answered why. Because it's Rudolph Valentino, a heartthrob of the day, and it doesn't matter what role you'd put him in at the time. People would flock to the movie theatres just to see him. The plot is pretty much secondary in most of those films anyway.
Have you ever noticed how in Disney's Aladdin, the good guy might as well be a tanned American surfer dude, but the bad guys look and sound a little more, Arab?
They look pretty much the same colour to me. In fact, Jafar there looks kind of paler. With an English accent.
You are late.
Plus, is the best Disney villain ever.
You have it then.
I had to slit a few throats, but I got it.
While Hollywood historically has sometimes given good Arab roles to non-Arab actors, it has also sometimes given not-so-good Arab and South Asian roles to white actors too, denying brown people work and decent on-screen representations in one fell swoop. It's basically the world's worst catch-22.
Jesus Christ! So if you give non-white people roles, it's negative typecasting, and if you don't, you're racist. There's no pleasing you.
For example, take Mr. Habib, the scheming Middle Eastern villain in Father of the Bride Part 2, who's played by Eugene Levy.
The Habibs would like to buy the house, George. It's exactly what they've been looking for.
We've lived here 18 years. I don't know if we can get every...
Those aren't even real words he's saying to his wife. It's just vaguely Middle Eastern sounding gibberish.
For fuck's sake, that's the joke! Yes, we know that not all Muslims are terrorists, but we do know, and there are facts to back it up, that more than 75% of terrorists are Muslim. So with figures like that, a lot of TV shows and movies are going to portray terrorists as brown-skinned, Arabic-looking Muslims. Who did the Manchester bombing? Who did the London Bridge attacks? Who mowed down all those people in Nice? Who shot and murdered the Charlie Hebdo journalists? Was it A, the KKK, B, the Westboro Baptist Church, C, Australian surfers, or D, Islamic terrorists? It's D.
As insidious as it is to flatten entire cultures and populations into the land of squiggly writing, there's nothing so pervasive and damaging as Hollywood's tendency to constantly portray vaguely Middle Eastern people as generic terrorists.
No, there's lots of things more damaging, like nail-bombing a pop concert, mowing other people down in cars and trucks, shooting up people in a nightclub or a rock gig. Having a few brown people play terrorists in movies is nowhere near as damaging as actual terrorists murdering people in the name of God the world over.
So let's start by clarifying a few terms whose meaning has been obscured by media that paints the entire Middle East with the same broad, shallow, ignorant brush. First of all, we've done a lot of research on this, and as it turns out, words actually have meanings. Weird, right?
This is weird!
You can't just lump Arabs and Muslims together because they're not the same thing. Arabs are a specific ethnic group, united by culture and language, and who primarily originate from Middle Eastern countries. Arab is not, repeat, not a racial category. Got it? You can be white, black, brown, and still be Arab.
Oh, so that bit when you mentioned Rudolph Valentino being the good white Arab hero means fuck all then? Yep, you just pissed all over your own shitty argument.
A Muslim is someone who practices Islam, a religion with over 1.7 billion members spanning a vast number of ethnic and cultural identities. The Muslim world actually comprises a multitude of groups that folks often forget, including Iranians, South Asians, North Africans, Indonesians, Black Americans,
and gingers.
But despite the fact that Islam is a religion, not a race, it's vital for us to understand that Islamophobia is racism.
I've been saying this for years. Islam is not a race, so speaking out against the worst parts of that religion is not racist. Just as it's not racist to be anti-Christian. It's not racist to take the piss out of Scientologists. Because you just said it's not a race, so it can't be racist. Because racism means discriminating against a person's ethnicity or skin colour, not their religion. You dumb, vapid, airheaded whore!
If you've been paying attention this far, you might be asking yourself, if Islam isn't a race, then how can Islamophobia be racism? The answer lies in another ism, one many Westerners aren't particularly familiar with. That's Orientalism.
Orientalism, huh? This is going to be great, I just know it.
In short, the term Orientalism refers to how, for hundreds of years, Western artistic and academic history has perpetuated an ignorant and prejudiced view of the East. A view rooted in the idea of Western culture as inherently more advanced and enlightened, and Eastern culture as inherently more ignorant, irrational, primitive, and often highly sexualized.
East and West are not races either. Jesus Christ! And to compare what's going on today with actual terrorism caused mostly by people of Middle Eastern or African descent and practicing the religion of Islam, and comparing that with the very limited knowledge the West had regarding the East in a book written in the 1970s is a fucking joke. A very bad, unfunny joke.
Western media has contributed to a level of ignorance so great that for many people it has resulted in equating Islam with scary brown people, particularly scary brown men from the Middle East. It's been so effective that most of you probably didn't even know that this man isn't Muslim, he's Sikh.
Anita, you're lying again. Most people can tell the difference between a turban-wearing Sikh and a Muslim. You've completely lost the right to ever bitch about mansplaining after that pile of horse shit.
So there's a conflation of Arab with Muslim, and because our ideas about Islam are so deeply linked to stereotypes about terrorism and violence, both of those categories are associated with masculinity and men.
The feminist just had to get that whole toxic masculinity in there, didn't she? She couldn't help herself due to her own man-hating ideology. But it's not Western men blowing themselves up in the hopes of getting into heaven, is it? So trying to shift all the blame on men, or the West's portrayal of Middle Eastern people, is part of the problem, since it prevents being able to address the real issues without idiots like Anita Sarkesian screaming about racism and racial profiling.
There's tremendous harm in centuries of images that reduce entire nations, cultures, and religions to the status of subhuman savages. As Jack Shaheen, the author of Real Bad Arabs, has said,
politics and Hollywood's images are linked. They reinforce one another. Policy enforces mythical images help enforce policy.
You can say that images of fictional TV shows and movies reinforce policies all you want, but do you know what reinforces real-world policies more? Real-life events. Actual bombings, actual shootings, actual murders on our streets.
We will reinforce old alliances and form new ones and unite the civilized world against radical Islamic terrorism.
Recently, during the 2016 presidential campaign, Republican candidates tossed around the phrase radical Islamic terrorism.
Holy fucking shit, did that bitch just use quotation marks? Does she really think that radical Islamic terrorism doesn't exist?
As if it were some kind of magic spell they could use to make votes appear out of thin air.
What the hell? No! Votes come from real people, you vacuous tart! People who don't want their country ruled by people who also deny that Islamic terrorism doesn't exist. What are you going to do next? Blame Trump for every act of terrorism since 9/11?
The only reason tactics like these have any effect is that, to so many Americans, people in the Middle East have never been established as human beings with real lives, hopes, dreams, and struggles.
Wow, you really went there, didn't you? You honestly believe that all Americans don't think people in the Middle East are actual people? No wonder no one ever takes you seriously. Constantly surrounding yourself with yes men creating an echo chamber so tight that you actually believe your own bullshit.
When people believe it's true, they aren't just more likely to support politicians and policies that appeal to fear and ignorance about the Middle East, they're also more likely to act on that fear and ignorance themselves. The Southern Poverty Law Center notes that the number of anti-Muslim hate groups tripled in the United States in 2016. The American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee noted the same increase after the release of patriotic fever dream American Sniper. 2016 also saw a 67% increase in anti-Muslim hate crimes, and there's no question that Trump's racist, fear-mongering rhetoric has played a part in this surge of xenophobia and violence.
Yep, blame Trump. Blame him for everything bad happening. It has nothing to do with the rise of actual terrorist attacks that make people angry, is it? It has nothing to do with politicians on the left constantly denying that Islamic terrorism is constantly on the rise and telling everyone else not to talk about it, is it? You complain and whine to the UN about people online calling you a liar. But if you just stop lying, you won't be called a liar. So stop fucking lying all the time. Oh, that's it. I'm done. Have a great day.